Okay, so let's look at the candidates because really we haven't even mentioned all their names yet. I don't think to this point. Okay, so I'm just going to open it up. Round table, and that includes the message board. Your thoughts. So we'll kind of get drilled in a little bit. Um, let's start with Caleb Williams. Amanda and I share, I believe, the same thoughts on Caleb Williams, and it did factor into my vote. The painting of the fingernails, Caleb, uh, Amanda, LaFratta. Why would you have not voted for Caleb Williams?
I would not have voted for Caleb Williams. A, his arrogance, and B, his lack of discipline when it comes to just being a decent human being. It seems like you don't paint expletives on your fingernails against the other team, you idiot. It's just embarrassing to watching him out there doing the Heisman pose and then getting trounced by Utah after was hilarious. So he had been off my ballot just based on sheer stupidity.
John says actually, and Stetson isn't arrogant. I thought he was a little arrogant after the Tennessee game, but somebody got his phone number and I think he was mad. So I'll kind of give him a pass on that. Caleb, let me throw Caleb Williams at you.
It would for me. I again, I don't care about the smack talk. I love smack talk. As long as you're not physically hurting anybody, then talk all you want. Just back it up. My thing with Caleb Williams is more funny enough. He's in a similar system to Hendon Hooker because Lincoln Riley and Josh Heupel run similar offenses, but I think that offense is bound to do a lot better in the Pac-12 than it is the SEC. It's a lot easier to throw it all over the Pac-12. And so I think you kind of have to skew his numbers back a little bit. Hooker has most of Hooker's yards were meaningful, even though there were a lot of blowouts. Like Caleb Williams had a lot of 350-yard games and games that were relatively in hand. I mean, hell, he threw for 350 yards last Saturday and 3 touchdowns. So, I think a few of his numbers are a bit plastic, if I can use that word. And so
typical
that would
USC.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is like when Reggie Bush won the Heisman, and I'm thinking that should have gone to Vince Young. Vince Young was leaps and bounds better than Reggie Bush in 2005.
I agree with that.
And it was embarrassing that they gave it to Reggie Bush. It was embarrassing that they gave it to Matt Leinart the year before. And it was embarrassing that they gave it to Carson Palmer over Willis McGahee in 2002. Sorry, I'm a USC hater, guys, but
fine. You make valid points.
Yeah, the Pac-12 plays no defense. You're running against air. I'm ready for some California people to jump on this board. Y'all don't play defense out there. I could score a touchdown in the Pac-12. And
I could too.
Yes, you could.
Yep. And neither of you would lateral it back in the championship game like Reggie Bush.
I know. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that fullback needs a touch. Okay, so you guys are split. I guess I'll break the vote. I would.
We're not split. We're both anti-Caleb.
No.
Oh, you're anti-Caleb for different reasons. Okay.
Yeah, I'm anti-Caleb for different reasons. I don't care about his smack talking. I'm just saying that I don't think he did enough.
Okay. All right. So Max Duggan, Amanda, you.
Out of the 4, he's my favorite. He's got a lot of heart. He plays and he leaves everything on the field. As we saw on Saturday, the kid was about to pass out and just kept going. I mean, he did everything possible to win that game for his team. I like the feel-good story. If you're not putting Hendon Hooker in there, and I think it's after what Caleb said about Blake Corum not being in there either, I think that was the deciding factor, was the amount of time that you missed, because there's 3 pretty good candidates in there above Stetson Bennett and I think above CJ Stroud that you could have put in there, but they all missed a game or more. So the Duggan kid, if I had a Heisman vote, he would have been on my top 3. I mean, he, like I said, and after seeing what he did on Saturday, I don't know. I think he encompasses what college football is about. I think Caleb Williams does not. I think there's the difference. Caleb Williams seems more pro to me. Duggan seems more college and more heartfelt and more just compassionate and playing for the love of the game. Caleb Williams is playing for the money. That's the difference that I see.
Well, I feel the same way. And he transferred too from a program just because it was the cool, neat thing to do at the time, right? Um, you had Hendon Hooker transfer from a program because his coach turned his back on him. And if you haven't done the background research on that, it's pretty sad, actually. You know, he had a heart issue, and the medicine caused him to get too cold later in the year, and he just got thrown under the bus by the coaching staff, saying, "Oh, he doesn't like playing in the cold." I mean, come on. We had a question on the message board, and I'll get to you, Caleb, and Max Duggan. We had a question on the message board. Where does Hooker rank? Okay, so I'm going to use rating because he did miss a game and a half. And how many games did he sit out in the second half because the game was out of hand? CJ Stroud has the highest ranking of 176.25. Hendon Hooker is 175.51. He's second. Third, Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. Todd Centerio from James Madison. Then you get to Caleb Williams, USC. Curtis Rourke, Ohio. Frank Harris. So let me find the other ones. That Max Duggan comes in at ninth. And then, okay, I'm still scrolling for Georgia. 23rd. He comes in at 23rd. So there you go. Except for Stroud, Hooker was the highest rated quarterback in the nation. Heartbreaking. Caleb, your thoughts on Max Duggan?
I'm big on Max Duggan. I agree with Amanda. I kind of do the whole where would they be without him. It's hard for me with the Max Duggan though, because we do know about that Sonny Dykes air raid, but it's not like that Sonny Dykes air raid has not been. It's been out there for 10, 12 years now. So at this point, it's more dependent on having a good quarterback than him catching you off guard with his system. And Max Duggan has that. I would throw in that just for the record, since we were bringing up numbers, I care about total QBR much more than quarterback rating. And all the Heisman candidates, Hendon Hooker had the best total QBR, with CJ Stroud second. Funny enough.
Okay, so educate me for a second. What's the difference between rating and QBR?
QB, I can't break down all the stats, all
Right.
of it, but QB rating just brings in the stats and uses a conglomeration to compile the stats. Total QBR takes into account adjusted yards, when you completed your passes, when you gained your yards, how effective you were on the ground. Like a third, if you complete a 3rd and 7 pass through the air, it's going to be more. It's going to matter more than if you complete a 1st and 10 pass. Things like that. It takes into account when the game. It takes into account when the passes and the stats were compiled and what the score of the game was at the time.
Okay.
When it mattered.
Yeah, when it mattered.
I did not know that. I'll start doing that. Okay.
Yeah, ESPN. It's hard to know exactly how they do it all, but ESPN did it, put this together about 12 years ago, and it's proven to be a much more effective stat than average quarterback rating.
I want to break down the rest of the candidates and why I believe Hendon Hooker should be in that mix. Brittany says, my heart is broken for Hendon Hooker. Would we be looking at something very different if he didn't suffer the injury? I think he's definitely in a top 3 situation. I think he may even be the winner. Even with a bad South Carolina loss, let's say that's still 20 points and that Tennessee doesn't come back, I think you're looking at a strong contender. And it's probably a coin flip between him and Caleb Williams. At least I think so. So, again, hit that like button, guys. We want to bring more people in because I want your thoughts. Somebody mentioned that the offense may be viewed as a gimmick sort of thing. Well, if that's the case, then it is with Max Duggan as well. And really, I don't believe that, Amanda. I believe with the wide splits and the tempo, and it's a combination, a conglomeration of a lot of different offenses. I don't believe it's gimmicky. I don't like that word. And to Brittany's point, heart is broken. Yeah, I think Amanda could speak to this after working with me for what it's been 6-7 months now. I pretty much separate myself from it because I have to, because I can't, be around my family and be upset whether or not Tennessee, be happy, just gleeful if Tennessee beat Alabama, or upset if Tennessee lost to South Carolina. I mean, you're so in it, and Amanda knows this now. 10 hours a day that you have to kind of separate yourself. But I will tell you that I thought I mean, I didn't cry, but I did have an emotional response. Or last night, I was really disheartened, really crestfallen. So, not sure where I was going with that, Amanda, but just let you pick up the pieces there, or we can move on. You tell me.
I'm not sure where you're going with that either, but I do want to point out that the this Heisman, and there should be something different. The Heisman should be a different award than the Davy O'Brien Award. Like this is what we're looking at. We're looking at the best quarterback. That's essentially what it is, and for this season at least. So there should be something separating those two things, and I think what should be the separating factor is the heart and the passion and the leadership abilities. That's where I think Duggan should overcome Caleb Williams. If you want to go the best, the best quarterback, then maybe you put Caleb Williams in there, you put CJ Stroud. But if you're looking for a Heisman, which should encompass your character, it should encompass all of those things, then you're looking at Duggan.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, who was Texas Christian before Max Duggan started playing football? I mean, and I think Hooker, you could make the same argument for Hooker.
Agreed. I think that's where it should have been separated. I don't believe that this should be the best quarterback award. You already have one of those. Why do we have another one?
I would have given I mean, Will Anderson was definitely on my Heisman ballot last year, and a lot of people they didn't even have him on their ballot. He didn't make the induction ceremony, which I thought that the edge rusher from Alabama, for those that don't know, that to me was just unbelievable. So, all right, we haven't officially gone through Stetson Bennett. So, Amanda, your thoughts on Stetson Bennett being a finalist?
This is the leader or the quarterback of the best team in the nation. That's what you did. You picked out a player that you could get behind on the best team, and you threw him out there. Whether you think it's a career award or, I mean, you're as a quarterback. Like I did a tweet, and Stetson Bennett is you're getting a team achievement award if they give you the Heisman.
Or a career award. Yes.
Or a career award, but more so a team achievement award. And it's not because of what you've done over your career, it's because of what team you're on your career. Like that's what they're rewarding. Okay, you've won a national title, you're probably going to win another one. Here, we've got to give you this award. I think that's just ridiculous. It's so stupid.
I agree. Smoky Mountain Red read my mind. He said another thing to look at: who is the offensive player of the year in the SEC and who is on the Heisman invite list. So put yourself in Hendon Hooker's position yesterday, and the voters are separate, but he probably doesn't know that. But you win the SEC Player of the Year award by all but one vote. One voter decided to go Bryce Young in Alabama, and I got no issue with that. But you're thinking, man, I got to be in pretty good shape if I'm the offensive player of the year in the SEC and for the Heisman. So, Caleb, should Stetson Bennett be on the group of 4 headed to New York?
No, he shouldn't. And again, we talk about guys I like, and if we are talking about character, I got no problem with. I obviously think Hooker's a great dude and Max Duggan's a great dude. I think Stetson Bennett's a great dude too, and I honestly think CJ Stroud's a good dude. I think all 4 of those guys I genuinely like. And Stetson Bennett is one of the hardest ones because you're talking about a really mentally tough guy that you respect everything that's happened with him, but no, he's not on this list. It's the little Dave will remember this one a little bit of history. It's 2006 Troy Smith at Ohio State. With Stetson Bennett when Troy Smith won the Heisman, most forgettable Heisman winner ever. And and it was a great story. He overcame, his mother had her issues, and so I think he was in the system for a while, and he went to Ohio State, worked his way out, won the Heisman. It was a great story, but it was just he wasn't better than Darren McFadden that year. Darren McFadden should have won it in 2006 and 2007, guys. I'm sorry. When I've watched college football, that's the best running back I've ever seen play at the college level was Darren McFadden. But yeah, Stetson Bennett shouldn't be on here.
I strive for his biceps every time I go to the gym. That
Darren McFadden's?
That flex thing that he had was like,
oh yeah,
biceps would burst out of the stadium.
What is Dave? What about like? It seems like, and you've been around a lot longer. I feel like there's a lot of no. Covering the Heisman. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to age shame you. Okay. I feel like there is a massive issue of prisoner of the moment with the Heisman, where the last 2 weeks just outweigh everything. I think of Peyton Manning in '97. Look, let's be honest. Peyton Manning was hot garbage against Vanderbilt that year. He was awful. In the SEC championship game, I thought he was great, but he did throw 2 interceptions in the SEC championship game, and they were a lot closer with Auburn than they probably should have been because of a bunch of offensive turnovers. And I think that might have weighed on the voters that year because Woodson that year also finished playing awesome against Ohio State. And so I think prisoner of the moment comes into play.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some recency bias in there. I don't think there's any question about that.
Do they even look at the voters though? Do they even do let's go back and see if these people are even alive, or let's go back and see if these people even care about college football? Are they covering the E-News channel? Like, do they look at who's actually voting for this thing?
The way it works is each state has basically I don't know if it's a committee chair or what you call it, the representation. In this particular case, it's Jimmy Himes with the Sports Animal. So yes, he's well aware if somebody were to get out of sports altogether and not cover it anymore. He's aware of that. Before that, it was the late Joe Bill who passed away, who gave me my Heisman vote. So, yes, they are supposed to be aware. I know that Tennessee with Joe and Jimmy are very aware if you're still working in sports. I can't tell you if somebody from Florida is aware. So that's the way it works. I think some people have surprised me with the fact that they had a vote. I'm not going to name names, but I think they've given out a few too many. But I do think there are different jobs in sports. And I think that, and I'm not knocking television people, but I think the job is to get the clip and get it up. And you have a lot of things to do. You have to cover local football as well, high school preps. And I think it's really difficult to watch a lot of football as the three of us do on a Saturday. I mean, the three of us, we're tuned in from noon to midnight.
Why wouldn't they give the votes to AP voters that they know have to watch, or maybe not AP, but whoever they know have to watch the games to make their decisions, or should be watching the games instead of 1,600 random people?
Are you talking about voters for
the Heisman?
But you're talking about when you say AP voters, or you're talking about for the national teams and the conference teams? I would say all of those probably have a vote, because that's kind of considered the next step up. If you get asked to do the AP top 25 poll, or you get asked to do the player of the year, like yesterday, there were only, I think, 13, Caleb. I think there were 13 voters that did the SEC, all SEC team yesterday. So that's even kind of a step above. So I would assume all of those also have a Heisman vote.
Well, why give it out past that is my question.
I don't know. I mean, are there a lot of people that show up and they do their show each and every day, their radio or television show or whatever the case may be, and vote for the guy down the street because it's the easiest way out? Yes, I think that's probably the case, if that's kind of what you're jabbing at.
Yeah, that's awful. That shouldn't be the case. We wouldn't have Stetson Bennett here.
No.
Yeah. No.
And don't forget this. Atlanta is a huge media market.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the biggest college football media market now. The College Football Hall of Fame has moved down to Atlanta, hasn't it? From South Bend.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we were this summer. We were there.
Yeah. So it's
cool place.
It's definitely the Atlanta is the hub of college football now.
Yeah.
So
that should be looked at, Heisman people.
I mean, that was a thing in history, though, as
One.
Dave will say, with the Midwest. I mean, how many times did, again, Paul Hornung, 2-8, won the Heisman. 2-8. And he got the Heisman at Notre Dame.
Nutrition World is where you need to stop in, and they'll give you those Darren McFadden biceps if that's what you want. I was trying to work in that transition earlier. I was there last night because they've got these little peanut butter dough balls that are just incredible. I might have a couple here in a little bit. They are unbelievable. But you can go online, go to nutritionw.com, and know that you're getting the absolute highest quality supplements. Stuff you're probably already taking. Know that at nutritionw.com, they're one of the top supplement e-commerce sites in the biz, and you're going to get the absolute best selection. Check out their website, order from there, nutritionw.com. We love Nutrition World. And okay, so who have we left out? And we don't like Caleb Williams. We all like Max Duggan, Stetson Bennett. We feel like great story, but career award or team achievement award. So I think I know where Amanda stands on our next one. CJ Stroud. She and I have similar. We get along a lot on the Heisman, not so much on other topics, but a lot on the Heisman. Amanda, CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud had all the talent surrounding him in the world, and he underachieved with it. Got beat at home by his rival by 22 points. CJ Stroud, you can look at his stats and say, "Oh yeah, he's good. He's this, he's that." But look at who he's also going against. Not a lot of competition in the Big Ten unless you're looking at Michigan and Penn State. I mean, that's really who he went against. I thought he had probably Ohio State's the most talented team, if not for Georgia. And the wide receivers that he has on that team, it should be a next to impossible not to win the Heisman like he was projected to do so this season. And somehow managed to not, is probably not going to win the Heisman. So I think he underachieved with the talent that he had, and he couldn't execute to save his life.
Yeah, Chris Landry, in an off-air conversation, said he really thinks that Ohio State has 4 first-round receivers. Now, they're not all eligible this year, but Caleb, if you drop back and throw to 4 first-round potential wide receivers in the NFL, that's pretty good. I remind everybody to hit the like button so we can open it up to more people. And the super chat function is available so that we can reinvest and do more things with the show. So I'm still figuring that one out, to be real honest with you. So go ahead and click on the super chat. And if you want to contribute to the show, we greatly appreciate that. So Caleb, your thoughts on CJ Stroud? I don't have a problem with him being in it. I wouldn't vote for him.
I agree. I think the biggest reason I wouldn't vote for him, he was the ultimate stat patter this year. Like the ultimate. If you guys watched a lot of these games, they kept him in the third and fourth quarter. Now, I will say he did actually, a lot of his stats were meaningful. When I talk about total QBR, he's behind Hendon Hooker. He has the best total QBR of anybody in the Heisman top 4. Funny enough, Jalen Daniels at Kansas had the highest total QBR. It's just he didn't accumulate enough stats this year, but all of his stats were meaningful. But so CJ Stroud was behind Hooker. Massive stat patter. You're right. Big Ten was so weak this year. He played 2 teams, Penn State and Michigan. You could say 3 in Notre Dame, but Notre Dame wasn't the same Notre Dame team they became when he played them, and he didn't play that good against them. And
no, they lost to Marshall the very next week.
Exactly. And so the one defense I'll give him in the Michigan game is, look, CJ Stroud doesn't play defense, and Ohio State's defense turned into air the last 2 weeks of the season. And that was embarrassing. And every Ohio State player on defense should have just been forced to should be suspended for a game, even if it's the playoff, just for how they played against Michigan and Maryland, funny enough. So that's the one thing I would say is they're supposed to be loaded with talent on that side of the ball too, and they embarrass themselves. But I agree, CJ Stroud, I just don't think he did enough. And
with what he was given. Start out with a complete team you should run away with the Heisman.
Exactly. And by the way, if we're going to talk about gimmick offenses, like they're all these quarterbacks are in somewhat gimmick offenses except Stetson Bennett, and none of us think Stetson Bennett is the best quarterback out there. But CJ Stroud is in the Urban Meyer spread offense. Hendon Hooker and Caleb Williams are in that, I guess you call RPO veer and shoot offense, and Max Duggan is in the air raid offense. So this concept of gimmicky offenses is somewhat silly to me because most Heisman winners were in systems designed for them to thrive.